Okay. Okay. So, still coming. Let me see. Okay, for the people in the hallway, you are very welcome to join us. So, for the wrap up, so last hour of the meeting, I hope you had fruitful discussions, and I hope you have, well, not concrete outcomes yet, but at least, but that you're on your way. Okay, so this is our last session of the 2 days we've been here, and okay, and before we would move to the main topics, two really important things. So the signed presence list. If you're not signed on the list, you cannot get reimbursed. This is one of the most strict ever present cost rules. You have to have a physical signature on the list. If you haven't signed them, or if you're not sure, Amy is outside and she'll help you. Second is take receipts for your catering and dinner expenses. They're also going to be outside here on the on the fence. So we're going to try to have them in alphabetical order, but sooner or later you can get to them. But you can also get an electronic version, so depending on what your needs. But you have physical versions outside. So really sign the list, take the receipt before you go, because especially this first one, this is really. Okay. Okay, now for this 55 minutes we have left, there are two things on the agenda. First of all is the work group reports, up to 10 minutes per group. So I know you don't have slides, just a spontaneous wrap up of what you've managed to achieve in yesterday afternoon and this morning. And then we have the second point is the action communication system. So we're a big action already, and probably we're going to grow even bigger next months. So how to enable over 200 people to communicate? There are some options. We'll discuss them, and then we'll make a vote, like a preference vote on which system we could potentially use in the future. So, but for now, I'm back. No. Oh, no, that's okay. Okay, so we're on the right slide now. Anyway, so I would actually ask work group 1 to maybe give us a brief overview of what was going on. So just please, for the sake of people on Zoom, take the mic, or you can maybe even better if you take the stage here so they can also see you.
So, hello everyone. Working group, I'm Pedro Palma. And I will report about working group 1. It was, I think, a successful meeting. Nobody was injured. We all managed to come out alive. But the main issue was that before this meeting, we did not know each other. We have members with very different backgrounds, and our topics are quite broad, let's say. So for those of you who don't remember, the topics are robustness, repairability, reusability, and adaptability. I think I did not repeat myself. And we have members who are architects, who are engineers, who are experts in building physics, acoustics, and each one of us has a different overview of what each of these topics actually means. But in the end, I think we found quite a good way to bring together our knowledge to move forward. So what we came up with was, for each of these topics, which are the ones in the memorandum of understanding that we have to address, we have now 2 responsible persons who will collect input about specific topics. So one of the topics will be timber connections. Another topics will be non-structural components of tall timber buildings, of course. And our idea for the next meeting is to present some selected items of these topics. So robustness of tall timber buildings, we will probably have a talk on robustness of tall timber buildings. We'll also have a presentation on adaptability of tall timber buildings, maybe a presentation on digital design and prefabrication, how can this be used in tall timber buildings. But always keeping in mind these four topics: robustness, adaptability, repairability, and reusability. We also identified an overlap with working group 4 that we have to address, namely about durability, repairability, maintenance. This is a clear overlap, which is good. So we simply have to decide whether we clearly separate what each working group is doing, or we have a subgroup together. Also, robustness and working group 3, there is an overlap. All the experts in blasts and etc. are in working group 3, and their input on robustness would be very, very welcome. So we will have to coordinate with Daniele in working group 3. Also with working group 2, there are some issues because one of the topics will be indoor comfort, and this relates with serviceability. So we also need to coordinate with working group 2. But the main outcome from this meeting was that we now have faces, names, topics, deadlines, and we can move forward. I think if anyone has any question, or if I forgot something, maybe one of the working group members can. No?
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Pedro. So working group 2, is Doc Pasca here? Is it? Oh, you're again. Okay, well, Alex, go ahead.
It's me again. We were a little bit less structured and committed, but more highly spirited. So basically, we really looked at two issues. One is deformation, and the other one is vibrations. Deformation being static deformation of whatever kind. So under deformation, we looked at connections, obviously, keyword in timber, limit values for design. And by the way, working group 2, please fill in, chip in if I miss anything. And then the second one is type of connections, in particular connections between concrete and timber structures. That's, there's a big unknown there. That's the second little 3-page thing. The third one is FE modeling of connections, how complicated we go, what is acceptable. The fourth one is existing technology and case study examples as opposed to steel. As you know, every single contractor comes up with their own connections in timber, and then there's not much. There is much less standardization in that sense. So some kind of nomenclature in terms of connections would be quite useful, or at least in this 3-page document to highlight the issue for the need of such nomenclature. And definitely today we discussed time-dependent behavior related to the formation of creep. Which is really becoming an issue. You never know what you're going to get because of creep in timber. So that's that. So we have these 5 topics, and probably those 3-page reports may be just throwing in list of issues, and we will see how much more can be actually done apart from registering problems. So that's the first one on deformation. On vibrations, there was a long discussion about really a need for a long-term monitoring of timber structures and its uses. Because when I say uses, that means, how are people using that? How many times the floor gets crossed? Who is crossing it? We don't know a lot about the uses. And that's actually, I mean, I did another presentation to the group this morning where people are saying that, I mean, Mike Griffin, the leader in the field, is simply saying defining serviceability as mostly barely perceptible vibrations, which are not happening often. Basically, that would be acceptable, whatever that means. Now, the problem is that we know what is barely perceptible or not perceptible in terms of response factors, but we have absolutely no idea how many times it happens during the day. Is it 20 times, 200 times? The same, large levels of vibration can happen not so often and be acceptable, or small levels of vibration, if they're happening, very often, then it may be unacceptable. So there is a huge issue about that, which is why we need the program of long-term monitoring, and those exercises are actually far in between. Then also, we are concerned about EC5, current draft of EC5 provision for vibration that was circulated. I mean, some of the response factors proposed there as acceptable in the new nomenclature are actually quite horrific. Pushing, what did we say, 48? Yeah, 6 categories and things like that. And then we scanned, what we know about EC5, and actually nobody can recall any kind of fundamental science being done to justify those values, where they're coming from, why, how. So, pay attention to that one. Now we'll try to dig out a little bit more information about about that. Also, mitigation techniques. That's the third aspect. Now, historically, mitigation techniques were always focused on structure. What do you do to reduce vibration in structure? But in this particular case, because we know that lightweight structures are going to vibrate and move more, and that's just inevitable, fighting basic laws of nature. The mitigation is not, we see mitigation not being only related to the structure, but also related to human structure. So, for example, maybe, on the lightweight floor, we will need to, a recommendation will be to use those desks which you work standing rather than sitting, because if you're standing, you can actually sustain higher levels of vibration. Plus, it's helpful as well. And maybe the recommendation will be, okay, 2 hours a day you need to stand, and or separate or whatever. So a little bit more wider thinking about what mitigation actually means. The third one is loading types. To really come up with a list of loads which are relevant: wind, ground-borne, slamming doors, elevators, walking, running, jumping, whatever. The third one, the fifth one is FE modeling, in particular the effects on non-structural elements. Because I mean that is related a little bit to robustness and what's going on there, because everybody knows that non-structural elements completely change the dynamics of the floor in a way which is currently being usefully swiped under the carpet. So and the final one is really related to vibroacoustic environments, whereby it's not only vibration but it's also acoustics and all sorts of other building to physics related issues that we just heard previously related to comfort. That's how do we cook all of that up? Because it's we do need to pay much more attention now to human use of vibration of buildings and what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, and that's all. So in total, only 11 short reports.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's I think you point out quite a few of the really key pressing issues. So really good. Okay, Daniela, or group 3.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Yeah, Daniele Casagrande from the National Research Council of Italy. I'm leading working group 3 regarding load accidental situation, mainly seismic, fire, and blast. We had 2 very intensive days in hybrid mode. So honestly, we had some troubles at the beginning, but it was quite important to be in contact with a lot of people, especially from North America. Especially, we have a lot of Canadians in our group that strongly corroborate important seismic and blast. But also, we had the opportunity to be in contact with people that couldn't come here this day. At the beginning, we tried to give some information regarding the update of the state of the art report, since most of the people, of the members, have already started working on the state of their report. So at the beginning, they start writing more general and probably longer state of their report, about 8-10 pages. But now we decided to try to summarize to an abstract of 2 pages and references. So we have decided how to move and summarize the state of the report. But I think that the work has been done so far, and we will be done the next days, and next week will be very useful also to encourage publishing journal papers within COST Action. That I think it's a great opportunity, especially for young students and young researchers. We had 3 very interesting lectures by Professor Gazandudak, University of Ottawa, on blast, by Professor Massimo Giacomo on the revision process of Eurocode, and Professor Alan Lewis on the revision process of Eurocode 5-1-2 on fire. I strongly wanted them to have this lecture, since it's very important, in my opinion, to give a general overview on the next generation of Eurocode 8, because it's true that it's the future of Eurocode 5 and 8 will be published in probably 2026, maybe 2025, let's see. But these 2 codes will include the research of the last 20 years. So we need now what we will have to done in the future. So and what this COST Action aims to. So I think it was really important. We had also another nice presentation from Igor Gavric from the InnoRenew. It presents a lecture by the holistic approach, but mainly related to load accidental situation. So within working group 3, we have some interactions. For example, I think we should aim to a multi-risk-based design approach. It's something completely new, probably in timber engineering, but not for other materials such as steel and concrete. Namely, I would say fire after earthquake, fire after blast, or blast after earthquake, something completely new, but also trying to find links and interaction with other working groups, such as working group 1. I think there's a strong link between blast and robustness, progressive collapse, but also with acoustic and so on. Then we started discussion. We split it in 3 subgroups, subgroup 1 on seismic, where we had 8 presentations regarding the state of the art on each of these task topics, let's say. Each task group is composed of 3 members, 3-4 members, and we had the chance to see what has been done so far in literature, and especially we discuss which should be done in terms of lateral load resistance system, but not just in terms of lateral load resistance system, because we need to make difference between wind load and seismic. Our working group is not related to wind, but is related to seismic. Also, as we saw yesterday by Cristiano Sartori's presentation, for taller timber building, wind action might be higher than seismic action, so we need to work together, but also regarding connections and advanced strategies of protection. Then we had subgroup 3 regarding Blasta, that is led by Christian Gau for Carter University in Ottawa, Canada. It was on the west coast on Canada, so it was 2 a.m. So I need to thank him very much for being. Unfortunately, it is a quite small group, and due to the fact that most of the members in the subgroup are also in working group 1, just 3 people were attending this subgroup, so I want to thank them. Maybe in the next working group meeting, probably we could avoid this overlap. Let's see what happens. And then subgroup 2, led by Daniel Brandon on fire. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend since I need other stuff to be in working group, so I can't ask you, Daniel, if you say something to summarize what you did.
Yes, thank you, Daniel Brennan from Rice. Yeah, we had quite an interesting meeting. We didn't have time to communicate the results, but we have 4 different subtopics. One is building regulations, and instead of summarizing loads of building regulations, we're trying to look mostly at building regulations that have been adjusted recently based on modern timber buildings. Then we have fire dynamics, quite a big group, quite a lot of stuff to include there as well. I think that is going strong. Then high fire resistance solutions, which is a topic that has been discussed for many years, but now we have to think about other connections that we used to. And I guess the state of the art, there is lots of information, and we might need some more people contributing there. But then the last, where I actually have a request, that is insurance queries or property protection. We look at repairing fire damages, looking at different topics related to costs. But then water damage is something that is almost always mentioned if you talk to the insurance companies, and no one in our group is an expert. And then I asked Pedro, are you looking at repairing water damages? And then the answer is no. So I guess for us it is important. For us, yeah, I think, and the insurance industry, they're a really important stakeholder, and they can actually just stop projects. So my request is someone needs to look at water damages, repairing them, and preferably not us. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Daniel. So that's all for working group 3. So thank you very much, Jessica.
Stefan, 4.
Yes, so last working group 4, sustainability and durability. So we spent yesterday's time with discussions about LCA. That's a huge field, and we found out that there are some things are missing which are not considered in the LCA calculations, for example, the reuse or the prefabrication and so on. So it's now time then to show this in the abstracts and to highlight this. Then we continued today with 2 presentations about durability and moisture impact. And we also, I'm glad that I have some help, LCL from Shadi Atya. He will lead that part. From Jens Frohnmüller about the durability, he will lead that part, and Stefan Ott for the moisture and maybe also other aspects for the sustainability. And so we finally, we discussed a lot at that time. So at the end, we had little time for defining or more clarifying the subtopics. And as Pedro already said, there is overlapping with the other working group, especially the durability part. And finally, we came up with a matrix where we have the phases for the building, in addition the design phase, the prefabrication phase, and then the phases of the LCA calculations. And to that phases, we pointed out what is missing, what are the problems. And we added durable design, durable material, moisture impact and monitoring. And we assigned, or we came across and marked where, at what phases those topics are relevant. And so we have to fill this up in the future until Gothenburg meeting with content. And then to sum this up, as we have discussed with the pages, to show our challenges. And I'm sure there will be enough potential. And I have to say we were a rather small group, even today. So we did not split off in subgroup meetings. We stayed together. This was quite good. We have to make a meeting with G1, of course. And now I also count on the help of the people which couldn't join here in person.
You think you could also cover the water damage within your group?
Water damage?
Yeah, that's what was exposed before by Daniel and Daniela.
Yeah, this is somehow covered with the moisture impact. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you would kind of be like most appropriate to
And
tackle that.
protection during construction.
Yeah.
Big issue.
Yep. Okay.
A big fight. Many people say, no, we don't need, and other people say, yes, that's the only way.
True. Yeah, really important. Okay, thanks, Stefan. Okay, so I think that just from these 4 short reports, you can see that things are already starting to clarify out. So, you know, not in the same stage, but issues are already popping up, and also these crossing issues. And this is what we are after. But looking at the whole thing overall, one thing is kind of like pressing out. And this was actually a really good idea that Gerhard Fink gave this morning. So our vice chair, here. So probably in terms of competences and buildings, right now, this group, so you here and the ones online, you're probably one of the most competent groups in Europe. I dare say the most competent one when it comes to timber buildings and taller timber buildings. And if any, one should be giving new calls or new topics for new horizon calls, it should also be this group. So we should have a say in what kind of topics are going to be in the new horizons, because we are actually searching for those topics. We're searching for problems. COST doesn't have funding for direct research, but we have funding for networking to search for problems, and that's what we do. And we're going to try everything in our power, you know, however we manage to do so, to lobby the ideas that this COST action is going to come with, let's say the first year or 2 years, to get them in new calls. And then hopefully, you know, we can all find funding there to actually solve the problems we come up with at this action. You know, it's a moral promise. You know? we can't give you any concrete promises, but we're definitely going to do our best to get the ideas of this action, you know, further up into the European hierarchy. Okay, now action communication system. So I've only put in this slide of the built-in wood community. This is actually a running European project, which is trying to connect different entities in the wood industry in the first place. So they did offer us a subsection in their webpage, so we could have it could be a discussion-like environment. It could be a discussion also with different groups, different stakeholders. Also, you know, widening a bit, like Joris pointed out yesterday. We could also look at other fields like forestry, or depend on foresters for raw materials and so on. This is just one thing that came, you know, on the plate. So we're still in discussions with them how we would concretize this communication thing. But the other is the more concrete communication, like literally, you know, the stuff you send out every day. So there's a bunch of solutions on the market, Slack, you know, Teams, Outlook, whatever. And since we're really growing rapidly, it would maybe be interesting to use one of those solutions to have communication running. So, you know, you have communication within your own working groups, but these are getting bigger and bigger every day. So it would be nice to have all people in the loop, so, you know, they know what's going on. But of course, the more people you have, the more difficult it becomes. So this is actually now more like a vote on, just please don't do this because I have to run the thing. This is an online vote, and the reason I'm using this online is also because of the people we have on Zoom. Sorry? Oh, on Zoom, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Annette. So the item Z is, you're going to see when you're going to open the link. It's Izola, yeah. So there's also another item, but you're going to see how things go. So right now, these 4 are as possible options, and there's also other. And if we're going to see any other votes, we can then discuss them. So if you just go to Mentimeter, I don't know if you were using it before, it's really simple. Go to this address, use this code. So 38638395, and then click submit. And then because we're using this computer for presentation, I cannot show you the results, but I will be reading them out on the screen. So I see the votes are coming in. And I'll leave you to it for a few more minutes. So we have 15 votes, 16, 17, counting. So yeah, I know this is the thing. So these are things under market. So also depending on how well do you know them, or let's say how well acquainted are you with them, because we would not push you into anything, let's say, the most of the group wouldn't know. So everybody knows how email works. You know, we all know the drawbacks of it or how it functions. Lots of people have teams because of the way things work in companies. But then, yeah. No, that's just communication. So it's not about storing. It's really just how to get the discussion going. It's like really, I could also put on having a Reddit channel or something like that. But just this was a topic at a meeting in Brussels just 2 weeks ago. So what different teams are using, and those 4 were on the list of what mostly people use. So the outcome that we gave, or the suggestion we gave to Brussels, was to actually extend the eCost system to also include the forum. So basically we could have open channels, closed channels, moderated, unmoderated, and so on. And then that would also allow you to connect with other cost actions. So communication is key. And so this vote is not gonna, cement anything. It's just to see, let's say, where roughly people are, or let's say where roughly people think they are. Okay, so we have 49 votes. Okay. It would be cool if you can do it now, yeah. So this is just gonna give us like a slight overview of where we are. Okay. So we're at 51 now. 52. So we should be at about the same. Let's say the results are sort of like starting to come out. So you cannot see my laptop, but just in case I can read it out. So right now, Teams is leading with 23. Then it's Slack with 16. Email list with 14. Sorry, 15. Zulip with 1, and then other also 1. So this gives us an indication roughly where we are. So again, this is just for us to note and to think in this direction. So we could also use different channels, but just to see where you roughly stand maybe with this more in-time communication. So it seems that most of you are using Teams, which is pretty much, I would say, expected. And then Slack seems to have also quite a big of an influence, and then email list. So Zulip is 1. I've never used it myself, but I've heard that other cost actions are. And then whoever chose other, and if he is or she is in the group, I would like to hear what the idea was. To meet the person. Unless that person was online, they can also speak up, so. Okay. Well, anyway, so we'll take this as a note for future, let's say, discussions. So you could, I guess, still keep the email lists as they are. The problem with emails is that eCost has improved quite a bit in the last years, but it's still very, very rigid. And with the amount of people coming in, updating email lists is a pain. So this would then be done, let's say, by work group leaders. And Teams is a little bit more interactive, so you can give people access as they come in. Okay, cool. So I'd say it gives a bit of an insight. Now we're coming to the last minutes of this discussion. So at this stage, I would actually like to nope. Yeah, just to invite you again to this place. So to the WoodRise conference. Many of you are, I think, are actually members. So it's going to be first week of September. Call for papers are still open for 5 days. ITC grants are still available until the end of June. So you maybe know these two guys. This is the father of the new European Bauhaus. So the movement that's pretty much what we were hoping to use to get our fruits of the action to reality and to get some real funding. And this guy is quite well known as well. So especially the Swiss should know him. A bunch of other people, I guess you're also familiar with, probably this guy or maybe this guy and so on and so on. But anyway, these are the projects, because this WoodRise is in general about what we are, about tall timber buildings. We're about taller timber buildings, but we've taken a different turn. This is going to be about the renovation of the existing building stock. Europe has about 75% of the building stock that's considered not on the level we want it to be. And it's going to be about using timber technologies for renovation, seismic strengthening, upgrading, retrofitting existing ones, upgrading. This is 10 stories of CLT on 6 stories of concrete inner cores and so on. These are going to be keynotes. Then we have workshops from recently finished projects. You know quite a few people from here as well. This guy here. A few of you, I think, also know this one. Marie is not with us today, but she's also a member of the Action. So these are workshops, like really coherent research topics. Before we leave, I first of all want to thank our grant holder, Amy Simmons. She's in the other room, but she's been saving my ass for the last few weeks. And there's a bunch of other people as well from Tina. We have about 10 more supporting. What? Oh, God damn it. Anyway, so it's in October. Yeah, sorry, it wasn't it. The MOU hasn't been modified yet in ECOST, so you have voted on the new date, so thank you, and I've copy pasted from the old one. So yeah, so it's a 2-day event, basically an afternoon and a morning event, so you can come in the morning, have discussions on the first day, then discussions on the second day morning, and then leave in the afternoon. So, and we've aligned it with the anniversary of Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. So whoever wants to just hop from Göteborg to Karlsruhe can also do that. So yeah, first of all, a big thank you to all who've enabled this conference. A big thank you to you for making it possible, for contributing. Because of you, it's actually going to be, the results that are going to be relevant for all of us. So see you in Gothenburg, and safe travels to wherever you're heading now. See you.